I've been dreaming about this magical country for years. Machu Picchu, cute alpacas, rainbow mountains, unique kindness of the locals. Peru didn't disappoint for a second. So let me show you this amazing adventure and share my top places to see in Peru in 2 weeks. Huacachina is a small natural oasis in the center of a desert near the Ica. The waters of the oasis were once believed to have healing powers, and there was a famous summer resort once. Nowadays, it's a popular tourist destination and weekend getaway for locals. The most popular activities in Huacachina are sandboarding and dune buggy. All buggy tours depart from the hotels at 4 p.m. and as I already told you, we were late and missed it. From the top of the sand dune, we saw parking of buggies, ran there and asked if it was possible to go to the desert. Yes, it was, and the price was twice less as all the tours I saw online. There were 9 people in our bug, including the driver. Everything was calm at the beginning, but then our driver started doing tricks, climbed at crazy speed on the dune, raced down and jumped. Some of the tourists were screaming and squealing. I was in silent shock. The sun was slowly setting behind the dune. Soon everything around us was red and orange. We finally stopped. The driver took the boards out of the trunk and told everyone to slide down on their bellies. It looked scary from above, but it turned out to be a lot of fun. We each got 2 rides, then returned to Huacachina with the last rays of the sun. Our next adventure the next day. In the morning, we took a transfer from Huacachina to Nazca. We could see some Nazca figures from the top. One of them was cut in half by the highway. The scenery all around was Martian. We were late for our flight, but they let us do it in 1 hour. Upon arrival at the airport, all tourists pay extra taxes for the entrance tickets to Nazca, so prepare some cash. There were 4 other people and 2 pilots on the plane with us. We flew around some of Nazca figures so everybody could see them clearly. Nazca lines are a UNESCO heritage. Scientists still don't know why and exactly how the locals created these geoglyphs more than 2,000 years ago. The Nazca Plateau was incredible. A giant flat grey plate crisscrossed with perfectly straight lines, triangles and animal figures. It is difficult to estimate the scale from above, but some were 300 meters long. There is a theory that the Nazca lines were drawn by aliens as a landing strip. When you look down from above, they seems to make sense. After the tour, we went to the town. The town of Nazca itself was not particularly remarkable. We had a few hours before the bus and decided to walk around and have lunch. We made it to the Museo Arqueológico Antonini, very nice by the way, and went back to the station. Arequipa is a colonial-era city framed by 3 dramatic volcanoes. It is famous for delicious cuisine and beautiful Baroque buildings made of salar, white volcanic stone, giving Arequipa the nickname Ciudad Blanca, White City. Arequipa was founded by the Spanish in 1540. It is one of the best places in Peru to shop for top-quality baby alpaca, vicuña and woolen goods. Mundo Alpaca Shop has a lovely small zoo featuring llamas and alpacas. The first place that all tourists visit in Arequipa is Monasterio de Santa Catalina. This 20,000 square meter complex with high walls occupies the whole block. It was founded in 16th century by a rich widow, Doña María de Guzmán, and is considered one of the most fascinating religious buildings in Peru. For almost 400 years, very few people knew what the monastery looks like behind its walls, as it was closed for public. The best way to visit Santa Catalina is to hire one of the guides at the entrance. We decided to explore it ourselves and got lost a couple of times in its narrow, colorful alleys, halls, and rooms of the nuns. In the old days, novice nuns entering Monasterio de Santa Catalina were required to live here and work in complete silence for 4 years. Then they could choose between taking their vows and entering into religious service or leaving the convent. That would most likely have brought shame upon their family. There are now only approximately 20 nuns living in the monastery, but at the height of its fame there were 450 people, both nuns and servants. After the monastery, we went for a walk around the city. Arequipa is often described as the culinary capital of Peru. I confirm, the food there was delicious, except for the guinea pig. Yeah, they eat these cuties in Peru. Arequipa is also the jumping off point for visiting Colca Canyon, the second deepest canyon in the world. We took a tour that started at 4 in the morning, had breakfast at the farm with bread and coca leaf tea, a traditional local remedy for altitude sickness, then did a quick stop in the village to take some photos with cute alpacas and tried cactus juice. Many of them date back to Inca times and are still used by local farmers to grow potatoes, barley, beans and quinoa. Another great attraction of this place are condors. They are the largest flying birds in the world. Its wingspan can reach up to 3 meters, and they're flying right over your heads. It's incredible, just like the canyon itself. Colca Canyon is nearly twice as deep as the US Grand Canyon. There are multi-days hiking tours in Colca Canyon. We took just a short walk along the trail, and the views, giant condors and nature blew our minds. This is definitely a place you won't want to miss during your trip in Peru. On the way back, we picked up some tourists who had been hiking in the canyon for a few days and went to the natural hot springs together. I love this place. There were several pools with different water temperatures, restrooms and changing rooms. It was nice to warm up after a busy day and listen to the stories of other travelers. Our tour also included a delicious buffet lunch for additional payment. I was so hungry, I forgot to video it, sorry. Returning to Arequipa, we saw a lot of sheep, vicuñas, llamas and alpacas. We made a quick stop at the spectacular volcanoes viewpoint at almost 5,000 meters. Overall, the trip to Colca Canyon was great and one of my favorites in Peru. The next morning we headed to Puno. This enchanted city is located in the southeast of Peru on the shores of Lake Titicaca, 3,826 meters above sea level. Here we felt the altitude more than in other cities. A 10-minute walk through downtown felt like climbing a mountain, but that did not stop us from exploring the area. We took a boat tour to Ures Islands. Lake Titicaca is the largest lake in South America, and it is the highest navigable lake in the world. But the most fascinating thing about Lake Titicaca is its inhabitants. Many years ago, the Ures people built artificial islands in its waters and still live there today. You can visit these islands and the Ures people on a tour. There are more than 100 of these islands, with around 1,200 people living on them. While the Ures people traditionally fish and hunt birds to feed themselves, they now also rely on the tourism industry to supplement their lifestyle. This has brought a few modern conveniences like improved sanitary facilities and solar panels. Most Icelanders use cell phones and televisions powered by solar panels. Children are able to attend kindergarten and elementary school on Uros. This is the president of the island who explains us how they build islands out of grass and teaches us his language. Ures create their floating house by stacking layers upon layers of totora roots and reeds. This water-resistant plant grows in the lake and is also used to make boats, houses, roofs, mattresses and more. Next on the program was a boat ride. To be honest, this whole experience seemed somehow unreal to me. It's hard to imagine that this is not a performance. Some people say that many of the islands are purely for tourism purposes, but there are islands further away from the mainland where the locals continue to live their traditional lifestyles. In the evening, we went to a traditional show at Balcones de Puno restaurant. That was really cool. There were dances in beautiful costumes, Peruvian music on traditional instruments, and delicious food. In the middle of the show, they even made a small quiz and gave out souvenirs to everyone. It is better to book a table up front. From Puno, we traveled to Bolivia. It was a crazy and beautiful adventure. We successfully crossed the border on foot, visited La Paz, Copacabana, and did a 3-day tour in the Plateau Altiplano with flamingos and the largest salt flats in the world. I'll tell you about it in my next video, so don't forget to subscribe. And we are heading back to Peru and finally going to Cusco. It took us about 8 hours by Peru hop bus to get there from Puno. We stopped midway for a delicious lunch. There was also an interesting museum in the cafe and a lot of llamas on the street. On the way to Cusco, somewhere among the mountains, the internet briefly came on, and I got an email.
Okay guys, I'm officially give up. They cancelled our train to Machu Picchu.
The train was cancelled because of the strike. Machu Picchu tickets were bought for a specific date and time. We couldn't change them. At the hotel in Cusco, we got a phone number. There was a shuttle bus through the mountains. On a narrow service road, he drove us for 7 hours, going up and down to the nearest town from where we could hike another 10 kilometers to Aguascalientes, the closest city to Machu Picchu. We weren't the only ones. It turned out that railroad strikes were very frequent and locals developed an alternative route to get tourists to Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a new wonder of the world, and the reason we came to Peru. We must get there. This road was a challenge. For 7 hours, I sat on the wheel next to the only window in the shuttle bus that could be opened. For 7 hours, I suffered from the abrupt change in the altitude and dust from the road. We could see how nature changed from rugged mountains to rainforest and back again. The views were breathtaking and terrifying. In 7 hours, we made 2 stops for food and restroom. I couldn't eat anything. Sometimes we drove on the edge of a cliff. A month later, we read in the newspaper that one of the shuttle buses fell off it with the tourists. The trail was busy. Some were walking with us, some were rushing back. I was just glad to get off the shuttle. I still didn't feel well and prayed to the Inca gods in all Spanish words that I know to finally get into town. At least I tried. It was getting dark. That's usually how all the horror movies starts, but luckily for us, not this time. We managed to get to the hotel before dark and collapsed on the bed. Machu Picchu, we are coming. The next morning we took the first bus to Machu Picchu. It was still dark outside. There were already crowds. Machu Picchu is one of the 7 modern wonders of the world and one of the most important archaeological remains in South America. Entry tickets are limited to 2,500 people each day. We took a bus back to Aguascalientes, walked a little around the village, and had a delicious lunch with lomo saltado and a cup of great coffee at the coffee shop. There were a lot of people at the station. Everyone was happy that the trains were running again. The views from the train were not as nice as from the shuttle bus, but I was not complaining. We took a bus from the train and made it to Cusco by evening. Tourist destination, primarily because of Machu Picchu nearby, but the city itself has plenty to offer. It was the capital of the Inca Empire from the 13th century until the Spanish conquistadors arrived. We visited Coricancha, one of the most important temples of the Inca Empire. It was built in the mid-15th century and was literally covered with solid golden sheets, each weighing about 2 kilos. The temple was also full of giant golden statues and altars. Within months of the arrival of the first conquistadors, this incredible wealth had all been looted and melted down. Coricancha, which means the Golden Courtyard, is now just a regular stone building with a mix of Inca and colonial architecture. After a walk around the center of Cusco, we took a taxi to the sacred Inca fortress, Sacsayhuaman. The fortress was the largest of many structures built by the Incas between the 14th and 15th centuries. Huge stones weighing 100 to 200 tons each were fitted together so tightly that a piece of paper couldn't slip between most of them. It took at least 20,000 people who worked daily for about 50 years to create Sacsayhuaman. Today we only see about 20% of the original structure. After conquest, the Spaniards tore down many walls and used the blocks to build their own houses in Cusco. You can also check out some other great ruins nearby like Kenko Archaeological Complex or Temple of the Moon. Rainbow Mountain is only 3 hours drive from Cusco. You hike uphill with a group for about 1 hour to the highest point of Rainbow Mountain, or you can take a horse ride. I highly recommend this method even though we went on foot. The elevation there is more than 5,000 meters, so I took my altitude sickness pills just in case. It's hard to walk at this altitude, but the views are absolutely stunning. The Rainbow Mountain, locally known as Vinicunca, was hidden in the Andes Mountains under deep snow until recent climate changes melted the ice, revealing the hidden gem to the world. When ice began to melt, the water mixed with minerals in the ground and together with the wind and the humidity turned the earth into the many colors we see today. Locals organized all infrastructure on the trail: restrooms, horses, drinks, and everything looks pretty safe. All in all, this trip to Peru and Bolivia was extraordinary. Nature, people, culture. I'll definitely remember it for the rest of my life, and also that's better not to play with Inca's gods. So first thing at home, I recommend you like this video and don't forget to subscribe, and see you on our next adventure. Bye!